Time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace and former Ottawa Senator Jason York.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coming In Hot. Brent Wallace alongside Jason York and Sean Simpson, both two overworked individuals who I'm happy that have both buckled down this week for our fourth straight show.
It's been a grind, eh, Simmer? We've been grinding it out, getting pucks deep, just working overtime. Well, Wally loves it. This guy can work all. Work all day, all night.
After doing in my previous job 20 hours of radio work, this feels like when I was a third goaltender. It just feels great. Like I feel like I could do this the rest of my life and be more than satisfied.
When you do the 4-hour radio show feels like an eternity. Simmer, I remember when I used to do the morning show with Lloyd.
Yeah.
It was a 2-hour show, sometimes an hour and a half, because JR and Warrensy would go so long. Looks like an hour 20 today, Lloydie, and then all of a sudden things changed and it was 4 friggin' hours. Like, okay, I didn't sign up for this.
No, people wondered by Friday, Wally, why I didn't want to talk to anybody. It was like I just talked to another human being for 20 straight hours about ice hockey. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break here.
Oh, boy.
So what you're saying is if I've got this straight, you guys both enjoy working with me.
Absolutely.
I don't go that far, Wally. But
See, I'm not in the spot to bring any sarcasm at this point, Yorkie. I don't mean to sound like a kiss ass, but I'm still in the transitional stage here. Where
you're in the honeymoon. You're in the honeymoon stage.
Exactly.
Simmer's still frisky. He's still frisky.
Yeah, you're new in the room, right? You can't be throwing bombs until you really get a feel for everybody.
Feel
yes, you can. You'll. By the way, Yorkie will vouch for you more if you probably throw shade my way. That's how
I know for sure. Yeah.
By the way, just waiting for Linus just to log in and get set up, and then we will have Linus Ullmark, the newest member.
Wally, look at you, a little power move on Thursday today. Bringing in Linus.
This is such a big week. You can't fuck around. You have
no. Oh, right? Nice. Letting the hair down as well. A little F-bomb to start it off. I like it.
Hey, look at these. I heard too, there's a rumor you're wearing the MC Hammer pants for our draft show. Is that true?
Yeah.
They are comfortable. Very relaxed fitting pants.
I want to see in those Zumba pants, and then I want to see in the gold gym T-shirt. Hey, you're getting ready to throw around some weights here. A little, maybe a Rick Dudley or John Brophy was the best. Brophy would go in between periods and throw the 225 around, and then all of a sudden come back in the room. I want to see Wally doing a lift just before the show, Yorkie. Hey.
Oh, it's good. Pump it up. Hey, get the silver chest hair flowing out the sweater. Hey, Wally.
Oh, absolutely. Hey.
We're just gonna move on. Let me just take care of some business until he gets set.
Let's go.
Brett, if you have it, this show proudly presented by Betway. Go to betway.ca, download the app, if you will. Bet your way with Betway. Please play responsibly. You must be 19 plus. Also, you can bet on the top 5 picks of where they will go in this year's NHL draft, which is tomorrow.
And also, this show is brought to you by our good friends at BEI, Monisher Excavating Incorporated. Great for if you want to spruce up that driveway, get some nice curb appeal going. They do aggregate and topsoil sales. Plus, BEI also does equipment rentals. You can give them a call for all your landscape needs, 613-432-1120, or visit them online at monisherexcavating.com. BEI, helping to shape the Ottawa Valley and slow down in those construction zones, please.
Perfect. Without further ado, can we just welcome the 2023 Vezina Trophy winner and newest member of the Ottawa Senators to the show, please? All the way from Sweden, Linus Ullmark. Sir, thank you for joining the show. We appreciate it, and congratulations. We're super pumped to have you.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm sorry that I'm 4 or 5 minutes late. We had a boat malfunctioning, so I had to take care of that. So we're living on an island at the moment, so if you don't have a boat that works, it's pretty hard to go there.
Hold on, you're living on an island. So how's that working out for you?
It's awesome. It's a special kind of life, but it's very enjoyable because you don't get any unnotified visitors.
Beautiful.
Linus, are the kids old enough to paddle now? Like, can you deploy them if the engine goes down?
Well, I can always have one in each arm and paddle with them instead.
Okay. Good.
Just put their feet in the water.
Yeah.
So do you still live near your hometown, which I looked up, the population says it's 349 people. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's an exaggeration. It's probably less than 300 now.
What's it like growing up in a town like that?
It's awesome. You know everybody. There's a lot of freedom. Everybody knows everybody. So for me, at least, when I was growing up, the hockey rink was always open. We had, as we call it, like pure nature ice. We didn't have any fancy facilities or anything like that. We had wooden boards and chicken nets for glasses, and it was great. Which created a lot of love for the game of hockey because you can just go out there and play and have fun and don't worry about anything else in the world.
Linus, were you always a goalie? Because all the guys I played with that are Swedes, they played different positions, different sports. Like some guys didn't even pick up hockey till later. Like were you right away? Yeah, I'm a goalie, or did you come to it later?
No, well, I was always better as a goalie. So because we were so few, I played in multiple teams, our age groups. So I played goalie for the older guys, and then I was a forward or D-man for the younger player or teams as well. So, and I did that until I was 15. That's when I decided that I had to choose, and I chose to be a goalie because obviously I was a lot better at stopping pucks than shooting pucks and skating. So that's how it came naturally.
Geez, over
Linus,
here, Simmer, over here, if you're 15 and you don't have your agent and everything in place, your career's over.
Yeah, that's crazy to me, actually. And I think that creates a lot of stress in a lot of parents nowadays that you have to have everything sorted out before they're even 15. And it's bothered me, obviously, coming from that sort of a background. And I think that a lot of young people nowadays, I mean, they're just mini professionals. There's really no love for the game. It's only like, okay, we have to go to this camp, we have to go to that camp. If we're not making this team, we're never going to be anything. But there's so many different ways to get to the NHL, but also just to be a professional hockey player. That is not a straight line towards success. It will be some bumps and ups and downs, and there's so many opportunities to go and play in different countries and explore other areas in the world where you can play hockey for a living. And so whenever I hear people having issues or parents that are scared or they're afraid that their kid will not make it, I just tell them to relax, let them enjoy the game, and everything will come naturally at the end.
Right.
Linus, we often talk here in Canada about the dream. My dream growing up was the Montreal Canadiens and Ken Dryden. Early thoughts on, is it Lundqvist, is it Salo, or I thought even just locally, was there a goaltender that you kind of modeled after? And then when did kind of the NHL dream come along, coming from a tiny town in Sweden?
Well, I always dreamt about, the NHL in itself. I didn't really have a goal until I was probably like 16, 17. That's when the dream of playing in NHL was my dream and my goal. But before that, I just enjoyed watching goaltenders. Taking out these, we have like a book back home with like top 50 players in the NHL. So I would always go through them, looking at their gear, looking through like some stats and whatever, and just try to paint them on a piece of paper myself and create different things and having a lot of fun with it. And most of the times I was looking at Dominic Hasek and Patrick Roy.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to jump around because there's people in our chat that want to ask you questions, and I'm going to try and get that. Alfie's mullet, you're on. Well, we'll just do it right now. Which Sens players are you most excited to meet in person?
Can I say former player?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
I would probably say Alfie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Automatically, you just win over all the fans right now. So, okay. Speaking of the Alfie chat, what was it, or how long did it go? What was it he said to you that convinced you Ottawa was going to be a good place? And now I do understand, and we're not going to discuss contract extension because there's nothing to discuss. But people were under the impression that you had a no trade in your list that included Ottawa, but you didn't. So you didn't have a say, if I'm clear, about coming to Ottawa. I know you talked to Alfie and you talked to, I believe, Forsberg. What did Alfie tell you about the city of Ottawa?
Well, once we actually got to talk a little bit there, we just chatted along as two fellow Swedes, and I asked him about the city of Ottawa. I asked him how it is being a senator, and he told me his experiences about being in Ottawa for so many years. Things that he, in the beginning of his career, he could never see himself staying in Ottawa. And then once he got older, then he realized that this is a place that I want to stay. And this is, with my kids and my family, and which speaks a lot, because I would say that a lot of Swedes they love, Sweden for a reason. Obviously, it's our home country. So there's always that little thought in our heads to always move back home once our career is done. And once you actually find a place that is suitable for you as a person, as a family, and it's in your place where you play. So for Alfie, it's Ottawa. That speaks volumes, because it shows that it's a great place for a Swede to raise a family and, root themselves to the Canadian culture.
Is there anything have you started Googling Ottawa? Are you learning anything about the city? Have you ever heard of what a beaver tail is?
You know what? The things that I'm not scared of it, but I think that I have to sit down and learn French.
Ah, yes. Yes.
So I can really speak my mind out to some fans out there, but especially when we play Montreal. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be an issue. As of now, I'm still bilingual, but we'll see if I can add a third language into the mix.
Linus,
quickly, do you hate the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Hate is a strong word. I always tell my kids that hate is a strong word. I think my opinion of the Leafs could be one opinion, out towards the public, but then there might be a different opinion private. But at the same time, that's for a whole different discussion.
Absolutely.
I have a lot of a lot of respect for the Leafs. It's a very good team, has been a very good team for a lot of years. So there's a lot of respect there, and I played them for so many times as well. So that's why it's love and hate relationship to it.
Linus, who holds the rights for the goalie hug? Is that yours? Are you the rights holder for that move, or is that Swayman?
No, that's a 50-50 one, straight up.
Straight up.
Linus, go back again, kind of full circle here. You grew up with Anton Forsberg, played together in Modo. In your wildest dreams, first of all, going back to teenagers, the imagination that you'd play in the National Hockey League, now to come full circle, not only be partners, but both of you raising young families. How cool and comfortable is that for you as a professional and as a husband and as a father?
I think it's hard to explain really how weird life is sometimes, because in my wildest dreams, I could never foresee that this opportunity would present itself again. We had a great time in Modo throughout our junior careers there, and also then 2 years or in the big team as well. But to do it all over again, but at the highest level of professional hockey, is so cool. And I think that a lot of people that have seen us, throughout the careers back home in Sweden would be very proud. I know that our old goalie coach, Maciej Swartz, is basically almost having a little teardrop from his eyes when I talked to him last time. But, it's so, how should I say it? But it's so cool to get to do it one more time. And especially when it's, 10 years now? So if you say that to anybody else that played in the Canadian Hockey League or whatever it is, that they have a goalie partner in juniors, and we're going to play with each other in 10 years in the National Hockey League, I'm probably pretty sure that they would say, nah, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
That Modo is a great town. Well, it's not called Modo. It's called Ovik or Unsholdvik, but I've been there. I have a Moto tagged golf ball signed by Victor Hedman. I know it doesn't really matter.
Great guy.
What a fantastic guy. Just a fantastic place to play for me. Like, I really enjoyed it there. I just wonder what your time was like as you played for Moto. And that year, 13-14, if I'm not mistaken, you were the league goalie of the year, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's over 10 years ago, so
that's okay.
It's not something that I can't remember all the details about it, but yes, I was the top goaltender of the league that year, together with Anton. Shared duties with him, and we had a great year, I would say, personally, both of us, but the team struggled. But like you said, it's a wonderful place. Same thing as people say about Ottawa, that Örnsköldsvik, there you go, that's the right pronunciation.
Yeah, I wasn't getting to that. Yeah.
No, I don't have to. It's you don't have to worry about that. But it's a great place to raise a family. It's a smaller town. People live and die for the hockey team. That's like the center of attention for a lot of people. And now the year after I left for the States, they got relegated to the second league, and now they're back up. And it was such a buzz and fuss when they made it back there that even I could feel, how proud and how happy I was that they actually managed to do that. Only problem was that the same day they got bumped up to the big leagues again, we got kicked out from the Game 7. So it was like a day that was both hell and heaven at the same time.
Jeez. So I want to know, fans want to know you personally. One of the questions is by Sensual Healing, so I'm not mistaken. Why do you wear number 35, first of all?
Well, to that question, I say, why not? Such a good number, isn't it? Great number. No, what is it? I had 30 in my junior year times. So when I got to Rochester and Buffalo, obviously they had Ryan Miller there, and so 30 wasn't available. So I choose 35 at that point, just out of respect to him, because he just got traded or so to, I can't remember if it was Anaheim or which team it was, or it was Vancouver. Mm-hmm. So out of respect to him, I didn't want to grab his number, obviously. And so then 35, and I had 30 in the minors, but 35 felt better, so to speak. And I like 33 also. I like 39, but 35 felt a little bit more like me, myself.
Just, Jason York, longtime Ottawa Senator and former Boston Bruin himself, used to wear number 33.
It's all yours if you want to, Linus. There's no.
Yeah, I'm not giving you a Rolex for that one.
I tried, Yorkie. I tried. Yeah. Do you have hobbies?
Do I have hobbies? Yeah, I'm quite boring when it comes to hobbies. No, I do like, in the summertime, I do like to play golf, as many other hockey players does. But I won't say that I'm passionate about it, but I play a lot of computer games. I've done it ever since I was very young, and I still do, because it's a very relaxing thing for me to do. And what else do I like to do?
I heard you used to draw. I heard you used to like to draw. Is that true?
What?
Yeah, I read that somewhere, that you likes to draw.
Used to draw the goalie equipment.
Yeah, I did that. I mean, that's like every kid did when I was young, and they would do a lot of paintings and stuff. But I played bridge growing up, so that's a different approach to it. Still do. Still think it's pretty fun to do. Enjoys playing board games. Love board games. And Dungeons and Dragons as well. And also, I do love heavy metal, death metal. The heavier it gets, the better it is.
Wow, that's quite a contrast from the bridge. Now, my father's in an elderly home there. We'll get you over for some bridge matches here in Ottawa. Linus, I want to go back, though, transitionally career-wise. I know in Buffalo, and this is a bit of a thought, people look at it and say, hey, you're a product of the Boston system. Your numbers were outstanding in Buffalo. What was the transition like, and what did Bob Essenza, because I got to admit, when you signed with Boston, I was kind of like, wow, that's a lot of money, a lot of term, but obviously it was a great decision by you, and it certainly transformed you as a goaltender going to Boston.
Yeah, so obviously Bob had a lot of influences on me, not just personally, but also in the game itself. And we had a lot of conversations. And I would say the product that is me right now is, the honesty that we share together. Because it's not just a one-man show. There's, you play together as a team and all that, but you also, as much as I feed off the team in front of me, the team in front of me feeds off of me and how I do. And it's been, my first year, I was very stubborn about how I wanted to play the game. And I loosened up a little bit for the second year after speaking to a couple of other people about his philosophy, Bob, so to speak. And said, hey, let's just try it. Let's just try some things, try to implement it and work on it for real. And that season became one of the greatest of all time. And then last year, I still think that there were some things that still needs to be cleaned up, but not every season is going to be, as the Vezina year, obviously. But you can always strive to achieve the same thing or even more. That's what I want to do. I want to prove myself that it's not a one-time thing. I want to do it over and over again, because that means that the team is doing very well and we have an opportunity to win every night.
How much did you thrive off of the push and the pull from Jeremy Swayman? And I'm assuming that same competitive nature is going to be with Anton Forsberg.
I think it's going to be the kind of the same approach to it all. I know for a fact that Anton is probably one of the most hardest working goaltenders or even players in the whole league, and I have a lot of respect for him in that matter. He was always a guy that I looked up to when it comes to preparations and compete level and everything that surrounds the game of hockey. And I think that obviously now when we're older, we're on the same level, but it's going to be fun to compete against him in every practice, because that's when you have time to really dig into, sort out things in your game and develop skills and feel good about the things when you go into playing hockey in games.
Linus, I sat through an hour-long gaming podcast last night that you did 5 years ago. In it, you mentioned, Dota 2, is that the name of the game?
Wow, you went really deep on that one.
You have no idea, Linus, how deep this guy will go.
All I can think of is he's doing this now. He's a little sneaky, a little evil.
In that interview, you said, you talked about chirping, and you said how good Claude Giroux was at chirping and how you basically hated it. I'm paraphrasing. Now, you did say he can back it up without question. He's so talented. I'm curious if you're looking forward to having a conversation with him when you get here.
Yeah, no, I did text him and saying that I'm looking forward to our friendly banter during practices as well now, instead of doing the opposite during games. And it's funny because it's not, like towards me as a goalie, he was never like a douchebag or anything like that. There were chirps, obviously, and then basically saying I'm going to score or whatever, let one in. But it was also some friendly banter as well that, it gives a little bit more personality to the player. And I enjoyed playing against him, but I'm also very fortunate and happy that I don't have to play him right now. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to getting to know Claude on a personal level, obviously, more than on a professional one.
Linus, when I played in Boston, Tim Thomas was there, and Timmy used to get so mad in practice. He would swear at guys when they scored on him, and sometimes the stick would come flying. You get fired up like that in practice, or are you more calm?
How should I phrase it? I am most of the time I am calm. Most of the time I am calm, but if I do start to get more and more tired and I get more and more pissed, yeah, there's been a stick up on the 200 level sometimes as well.
I love
it. Linus, when I look at your career, and again, and maybe not by design, and I think people here in Ottawa hope you finish your career, is it comfortable or cool, the fact that you've played for Buffalo, played for Boston, played for Ottawa, that you've actually stayed within the division your entire career so far?
Well, I got asked that yesterday as well, and I think it's a unique thing I don't think that a lot of players have done that. But also, I haven't had, I've only played now for 2 teams and now the third one.
Yeah.
And the first one, it was more of, Buffalo at the time was one of the, if not the worst team in the league. And then Boston came knocking and as one of the best teams in the league. So that was like, okay, great. This is a great opportunity for me to go to a contender. And then now getting traded to a yet another divisional team, which, I didn't have any say in it. But at the same time, I'm very familiar with all the teams having played here now for I don't know how many years. But so you have that sense of, like I said, familiarity with the teams and the players and so on and so on. It's going to be emotional, I think, going back to Boston and play there with all the relationships and ties that I have with all the people in the organization and on the outside as well. But at the same time, I'm looking forward to it because, I played in Buffalo, so my first games against Boston was as opponents. So now we're back to square one.
Yeah.
So, do you want to stick it to Boston when you play them?
Obviously, yeah.
100%.
If I wouldn't say yes, that would be very different. Like weird, I would say. Especially as a goaltender, I can't say that, I'm just going to go in there, let in 5 rip in the first period and then go sit on the bench in the last 2. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't matter which team it would ever be. You would always want to beat your old team. And I felt the same way when I came to Boston. I played against Buffalo. That was, we had that little extra motivation to play them, especially the first year. Then it kind of numbs for year after year, because then you realize, okay, the players are getting changed, or the ties that you have with your old team are now changed, so there might be just a couple of handfuls there. So you don't really have the same emotional attachment to the team after a couple of years, but the first one is definitely going to be a bit different.
Do you know, like you played 2, and as Simmer just said, really big markets. Are you excited to play in the Canadian market? Do you think it's any different than playing in Boston or playing in Buffalo?
Well, playing in Boston has really prepared me for playing in if not one of the biggest hockey markets of all time, with the fellowship they have and like throughout the whole wide world and the hockey community. So I don't think I will be surprised by anything now. I've I've experienced most of it in Boston, obviously, and also some of it in Buffalo.
Linus, I want to get your thoughts on when you look at the culture, and I don't want to be tough on Buffalo. It's just been a tough go. And I think even as sports fans, we all wish that city well. But what did you learn the transition from Buffalo to Boston that has had Patrice Bergeron, the city itself, this incredibly winning culture, and I guess applying that and bringing some of that over to Ottawa?
How tough it is to win. Yeah. And how much work it goes down to be successful. That was an eye-opener, because I thought that I was doing the right things and thinking that I was doing the right things most of the time, obviously. But then I get to Boston and I get to experience players like Bergie, for example. And I just realized that, oh, shoot, this is a completely different world. But it was exciting at the same time, because like, okay, so this is like one of the reasons why they're so good. And I remember that I was absolutely gassed in a couple of first practices, because they were just going so hard. They were competing like animals. And it wasn't just like the young fellas that wanted to make a name for themselves or getting a spot on a team. You had the older guys like Marshy. They were going head first into battles and really out compete everyone they played against. And you feed off of that. You feel that you get motivated watching it, even though that me as a goalie don't really care about what guy do in the corner. All I'm thinking about is stopping the puck. But you get the sense of pride in winning, and you have to do it in practice, because if you don't do it in practice, I always say that you practice as you play. So you try to bring all these good habits into the games going into the season, and throughout the season, and not just in the beginning or a little bit in the middle or at the end.
It's so funny you mentioned that, Linus. It really starts with the older guys in the team, right? Because they set the tone. You mentioned Bergie. I played with him when he was a kid, when he was just coming to the league, and he was the exact same way. But it starts with the top guys, right, and funnels down to the rest of the team. It's contagious.
Yeah, definitely. And what I think is also good is the type of locker room that we had, that it didn't matter which guy you were. It's if you work hard, you'll get what you deserve, that sort of thing. And you have as much voice in the room having played 2 games as it is playing 1,000 games. There's always something to learn from everybody. Everybody has a different way of seeing things that could help other players, maybe get an idea. Okay, maybe I should try this or try that. Okay, oh, that's what you meant. Maybe I should implement this. So you got to have a high ceiling and really understand that whatever people say to your face or so is not a act of trying to downgrade you or look down on you. It might be a constructive criticism that they just want to help.
Linus, I told you 30 minutes. So if you have to go, I more than accept that. I'm only on page 2 of my 6 pages of questions. So if you can stay a minute longer.
He always lies, Linus. He says 30 and it turns into 40.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, we can go. I don't really have anything. I do have some things to do, but I can just.
It's all good.
I'll get you a couple more minutes.
I appreciate it.
Bring the good ones.
Well,
bring the feisty ones. So
bring the heat, Wally. Let's go.
Oh,
Linus, if you could fight one goaltender in the NHL, who would it be?
What is it? Fight one goaltender?
Yeah, who's one guy you'd like to throw down with?
I would probably say Sway.
Oh, okay. Are we talking like is there a group hug before, and then is this a center ice, mask off? What were we looking at?
I don't know. I think that's a sign of deepest respect if if the guys in front of you are doing everything they can to win it and it gets feisty and then there's a big brawl or whatever. There's no emotional ties to the fight in itself. So at that point as well, if I don't want to fight.
No,
I told him multiple times during my stay in Boston. I felt like, buddy, what are you doing? I don't want to get out there being cold. You stay in the net, please. But if push comes to shove, obviously. But like I said, I'm a lover. That's what I say.
Oh, exactly.
Linus, Simmer's asking you because Simmer was in that famous fight when the lights went off versus the Russians in Canada. Simmer had a guy by the neck and he was choking him out when the lights went out.
Yeah. World Juniors, 1993.
Yeah, no, and you got the lunch pail AC back in Boston as well. They went up in the garden and just start chucking shoes at people and that sort of thing. So there's been some crazy ones out there in this league. So we're not going to be as bad as that, but like I said, I hope it never gets to that point because
for sure.
It's like my son said as well. Like he's 6 and he thinks that we should get rid of the fighting because that's mean. I'm like, yes, buddy, that's absolutely correct, but it's a little bit different. I can't tell you all about it because you're too young, but yes, you are correct.
He's very smart. I'm trying to remember your kids' names. Lily is your daughter's name, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. Think about Harry Potter universe.
See, now, Linus, I know
you
don't
he knows
watch
nothing about movies.
I basically gave you the name.
Harry?
Wallace.
Hey!
I should have just gone with the royal family. I would have got it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You
like drama.
What about I know. By the way, do you have any weird foods that you like to eat? Or food dishes?
It all depends on what kind of food you're talking about. We have our own delicacies. Obviously, we got the what's it called? Fermented herring, for example. Great things.
Oh,
do I love it? Do I like it? Yeah, on occasions when it's done properly. I don't just eat it out of the can. But weird things. I don't know if you guys do it in Canada, but I put ketchup on my pasta and meat sauce.
I've heard of
I have
this.
caviar with my eggs, but it's a different one. It's a Swedish one, so don't worry about that one. I'm not that fancy. I'm still a blue collar guy.
Good.
Nice.
Can you get it at IKEA if you need the caviar, or do you have to have it shipped over?
No, I can get it at IKEA.
Yeah, see, you are blue collars. What about your goalie goal? You've probably been asked a lot. You at the time were the 13th NHL goalie to score a goal. Now there's a list of 14 of them. Will you try it again?
Yes. I don't think, once you've, well, I don't need to chase it as much as I did prior to scoring. So now, I don't have to always go for it. And because once you've done it, obviously you can always look back and say, hey, I scored a goal in the National Hockey League. But at the same time, now when I've done it, I feel that I can do it again. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to chase it. If the opportunity presents itself, I'm going to go for it, obviously. But I don't want fans or whatever start screaming or like doing a lot of noise whenever I get the puck in the late in the third or something like that, because it's so random, and it happens such a few times in your career that you get a clear-cut opportunity to go for it, and then you got to nail it as well.
Where's the puck?
Can't say.
Oh, it's in a secret vault. Fair enough.
Can't say.
You called Brady Tkachuk a bowling ball forward. What would you use to describe? I guess what's it like to have? Yeah, you said it yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably.
I've done a lot of work on this. Everything is factually correct. What was it like to have him in front of the net? And is it so? You also dealt with Matthew Tkachuk, who knocked you out of the playoffs. So I'm just, are you okay with the Tkachuk family?
Yeah, I have a lot of respect towards them and whatever. That I think that what both those guys do is admirable. They play the game a little bit differently, obviously, but they're very good at what they're doing. And that's what I said about Brady, that he's a bowling ball, because he just runs over people. He just powering through with his speed and skills, and and the same thing can be said about Matthew. Obviously, he's more like a little bit more of a playmaker, skill guy, chirps a lot, that sort of thing. So I enjoyed playing against him in certain ways, but now when I got Brady in front of me as a defender and not a forward trying to screen me, that will be a lot more joyful.
Fair enough. Do you know what you're going to do with your goalie mask? Do you have a say in it, or do you let the artist pick?
I do not know for a fact as of now. I do have some ideas, but they're not as clear cut, and I haven't really, given them too much thought that I can say, hey, I'm going to go with this. But it's going to be interesting because it's going to be different colors. It's going to be a little bit different approach. I got to look into a little bit of the history of the Senators and see if there's something to play with regarding that. And who knows? Maybe I'll just throw on a Bowser with a red shell on or whatever. We'll see.
You said you're not superstitious, but
Nope.
are you basically just a routine guy on game day? And do you eat the same meal every game day?
Yes and no. I do have my routines, but if my routines aren't as strict that I have to do a certain thing at a certain time and I have to leave my house at this point because otherwise it's going to be, going badly. I like to do what I like to do. Yeah, I would say that I'm more of a routine guy than superstitious, because I think the superstitious in itself is when you have to turn the light off 2-3 times before leaving the house. I don't need that. I just walk out the door and lock it.
So, Linus, will you talk game day mornings, or are you? Some goalies you can't talk to. So after the skate, are you talking? Are you the quiet guy?
What do you mean? Like, oh, in the locker room, or would you?
Game day skate. So game day skate. When I was on TV for a bunch of years, Wally knows this. There's certain goalies that you're not allowed to talk to the goalie on game day after the skate. He is off limits. You don't talk. You a guy after the you're playing that morning. It's game day skate.
Yeah,
Will you
I have no
talk?
idea. I have no reason not to speak. I'm
See?
very straightforward with my approach to the game, and it's still a new opportunity to play that game. And whatever happened, happened. And I think, like I said, one of the things that I was what I had to go through in Boston is that media attention, and answering questions when it's not fun or when it's not going well, and when it is a little chippy, but also when it's going very well.
See,
Linus, a lot of build up to this trade. Sorry, a lot of build up. Did that kind of prepare your family? And just how does your wife, and I don't know how old your kids are, but what's their feeling about coming to Canada and you being an Ottawa Senator now?
Obviously, there was some sadness to it. I got to be honest with you. I mean, my kids are at the age where they have their friends and they have their ties, so they were sad. They're not going to see their friends, and they get to live where they've been now in 3 years. But once they actually said that there's a big opportunity, that there's going to be snow, and might enjoy a white Christmas, so to speak, and that there's some places you can go skiing, and there's a museum with dinosaurs, then my oldest one's like, okay, let's go.
Right on.
It is a great city. There's a ton to do, and hopefully the canal will be open. You can skate on the historic canal. Quickly, because someone asked twice now in the chat about your gear and the design. Will you have much to say about your design gear? Or your gear design?
Well, I've gotten to a point in my career now when I don't like to change too much, especially when it comes to my designs and stuff like that. So I'm probably going to keep it very simple, implement the colors, obviously, and try to keep it, kind of close to the uniform, I would say, and not try to stand out too much with whatever it is. So, because I've done so many types of changes to my gears when it comes to how they look like design wise, and I have a lot of gratitude towards the Bauer guys as well that I work with, that they can help me coming up with these sort of things. So for me, it's going to be simple. It's not going to be pure white. I hate pure white. So it's going to be colors, obviously, and then we're going to try to implement all four of them. Because there is four, right? Red, black, gold, and four.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Last question, and the reason we wanted to bring you on here, I know you're looking for a house, and Jason York has been trying to sell his house. So if you need one, it's in a great spot. It's near Brady and Drake Batherson. So we can get you set up. He's got a house to sell. It's great.
Who got a house to sell?
York, he's
right
got
here, Linus. Let's go.
Former players, it's set up good.
Hot tub.
Yeah, in hot tub in Ottawa. Yeah, well, is it a time machine?
Nice. Hey,
Linus, thank you. I know you're trying to have some summer off here. Sorry. Last question. I apologize. What has been the feeling for you knowing the excitement surrounding this city right now with you coming to Ottawa? What has this week been like for you?
Hectic, very hectic, but it's been good. For every day and for every hour that goes by, it feels better and better, obviously. And I've had some great conversations with multiple people from the organization that reached out to me as well, that have made me felt welcomed. And the same thing applies to my wife. She feels welcomed as well. And my plan, obviously, is to sometime during the summer come in and have a look for myself to see how it is and meet the people face to face before camp starts, and get to enjoy and see what Ottawa has to offer. So, but those plans are on hold for now. There are some things that needs to be taken care of here in Sweden, obviously, and it has to work when it comes to working out and travels and duties. Obviously, as a dad now that's basically on vacation but still works out. Mm-hmm. I have my obligations as a father to care for my children as well and make sure that they have the best time of their life as well during time here in Sweden.
Mm.
Awesome.
But you do feel the love, right? From the city?
I do. I mean, I feel a little. I even feel a little bit of love from Bjorky.
Hey, Linus, Linus, I'm from here, played here 5 years. Simmer's from here. You're going to love it. Great city for the kids, great schools. A lot like Sweden. It'll be a nice transition for you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Linus. Take care. Enjoy
Thanks,
your summer.
Linus.
Thank you. Take care.
There goes Linus Ullmark.
What a you know what?
Yeah.
We'll say this, Simmer, the old saying. Have
Mhm.
you ever met a bad Swede? I don't think I have.
No, it's incredible. And all the things that you talk about, and it reminds me a little bit of Ekholm. You know, there are Swedes or Finns, I guess, that want to avoid the weather. When I heard about Ekholm going to Edmonton, when you hear that for a young family, and then the other part, I spent a ton of time in Sweden. But one of the most historic things, guys, at least for myself, was I drove from Gothenburg to Stockholm. Now, I stopped in Linköping on the way. But I remember turning out of Gothenburg, and it felt like I was driving from Ottawa to North Bay. And I don't mean that in any, but if you think of Sweden and you think of basically Northern Ontario, it's identical, Yorkie, as you know, or Wally as well. Like there's so many things here. And also, I'll say this: I think really the mentality of people in Ottawa is very Swedish in a very positive way. I think there's a lot when you think about Daniel Alfredson and all the other things that, make you really feel like, wow, this is exactly the kind of place I want to be. And to me, I've always said when it comes to raising families, Wally, it's utopia.
Yeah.
It's funny you talked about northern Sweden. We flew into Ovik and landed. It's all trees. It just looks like trees.
Oh, yeah.
Turned on the runway. There's no taxiway. You just turn on the runway and park and then get off the plane and go to your car. Like it's so wild.
When you play, here's the thing too. Everybody in Ottawa, people in Ottawa have no idea what traffic is. It takes forever to get out to Canada and blah blah blah. Well, listen, when I played in Boston, I lived in Reading, Massachusetts. Yeah. Morning skate or non-traffic hours. It was a 14-minute drive to the arena. Pleasant, beautiful. You go down for a game, and your game is whatever 7 o'clock game, so you got to leave at 4 o'clock. It was an hour and 20-minute drive. It got to the point where I was thinking of taking the train, Simmer. Like it was crazy. So this is being here is so easy for the players to get around the city. They get here and they're like, wow, this is great. Like
to your point, Yorkie, when you've gone other places and you come back, and I remember in Boston, you go to scout, you're staying in the Boston area. If you're going up to Merrimack College, there was a 10-minute window. And you usually had to go, and I was going to watch, of all people, Paul Correa in his draft here. The 10-minute window was you'd get there and have dinner and see the game, or you would actually miss the game. That's how different traffic shifted right at that point there. Crazy. And you're right. We really, from an Ottawa perspective, coming out of an Ottawa game is nothing if you've been to some of the other cities, and even Boston for that matter, parking underneath and waiting hours to hope you get out of there.
Vice versa, you play in Detroit. One of the things I was told there, and Detroit's a great city, great sports town, but there's certain times late at night where they tell you, don't stop at the red lights, just keep going.
Used to. Yeah. I don't think it's as bad anymore. It's
not as bad.
Downtown arena.
They've cleaned up the downtown. The Illich family's cleaned up downtown. You got Foxtown. It's much better. But back in the 90s, Wally, I didn't. After a game, you're leaving at midnight. I'm like blowing through red lights. I'm not stopping. You get carjacked.
Well, so I forget now, and I need to look back. One of the assistant coaches from Ottawa wasn't Perry. Somebody went for a jog one night in Detroit.
Oh my gosh!
The cop car pulled up next to him and said,
"What are you doing?
Get in the car." He had no idea. I was. My cameraman and I had to empty our wallets one day walking back to the hotel from just dinner. So we're at
Thank
dinner.
God you had nothing in it, Wally.
Whoa.
Some Canadian money.
Yeah. They're like, what the hell is the Monopoly money? Hey, my first time I ever scouted in Chicago, guys, I got a ride. David Poyle, I was staying at the Drake Hotel downtown. I got a ride with an off-ice official. So I get to the game, pretty cool, old Chicago stadium. Well, I decide afterwards, I'm looking around. Well, first of all, there's no taxis. I'm like, well, I'll walk back towards downtown. And I say this in likening to some other cities. And I know they've cleaned up. I don't think Chicago has and where the building is at. But I'm walking, and exact same thing. Cop pulls up to me, and I'm finally dressed in my tip-top tailor suit. And he's like, what the hell are you doing? I said, I'm walking back to the Drake Hotel. Get in.
Get in.
As I slowly started to see less and less Chicago Blackhawks jerseys, he realized I'm in the wrong spot of town.
Hey, speaking a little off topic here from what we're talking about, but back to Ullmark for a second. Well, it's Ullmark. How refreshing is that? And you'll appreciate this, Wally. A goalie that talks on game day. When I was in Montreal doing games for Sportsnet, they basically had a force field around Carey Price on game. But he's like, you're not allowed to talk to him. He can't talk. I'm like, hold on a second.
Don't look at him. Don't even look at him.
Don't look at him. It's 10 in the morning. The game's at 7 o'clock tonight. He's going to go home and play with his kids, have something to eat, have a nap. Like, what possibly is going to upset this man and affect his performance that he can't say a few words to the media? Like, give me a friggin' break.
There are some teams that would have like a media intern or whatever stand by the goalie and say, no, he doesn't talk on game days. No. Like goalie guy, and I think Vasilevsky's one. I apologize if he's not, but I believe he is. Would be like you didn't exist. You could be like, hey, do you have a sec? And he'd be like, no, I can't. No. No. He is incapable of talking right now. I'm like, okay.
And the media guys are just doing their job because that's what they're told to do.
Yes, but let's not. But you have to ask, because Marty Brodeur, who is arguably the greatest goalie of all time, and I know it's debatable, but one of them is he would sit and talk for 2 hours. Like he would just go, hey, like what's going on? But Patrick Waugh, I'm 100% sure I think doesn't talk on like. There'd be a weird guy like Jeff Hackett. You talk about Montreal just before Carey Price, like. Jeff Hackett would be no, I don't talk. Tom Barrasso, he didn't talk at the most of the time.
Hey, Simmer, Ron Tugnut, Tugger was the best. We had Tugger on the pod about 2 months ago. He was fantastic. By the way, Wally wants to come back on. We need to do part 2 with Tugger. He wouldn't talk to us. He wouldn't talk to his teammates.
Okay.
And this the dog and pony show went on till game time. He'd get to the rink, and it became a game where Wade Redden and I would try and trick him into talking. He would be sitting there looking straight ahead, doing his crazy routine. Then he told me it wasn't until Columbus, when he went to Columbus, when he finally said, what the hell am I doing? I've spent my whole career having no fun before games, getting all uptight and basically flip-flopped and changed his whole thing and started talking. But Tugger might have been the worst Simmer of guys in this.
Well, it wears you down. And credit to Patrick Waugh. And I knew Jeff Hackett, and Hack, a lot like myself, that nervous energy, it's a terrible way to exist. And when you look at a guy like Ullmark, one thing on Patrick Waugh I always found funny too was, in talking not as much to Tugger but to Craig Billington, always different of, he didn't want a backup that was any threat to him. And you would think of all the goaltenders, no, I want a guy that I know is only going to play 15 games, is no threat whatsoever, and that made him comfortable. So everyone's a little bit different. But as far as Ullmark's approach, very methodical, very mature, very bright, typical Swede. And the part that has to resonate, guys, if I'm taking anything, and I talked to Jimmy Montgomery about him, he's a family man first. And, some people get up and chat that and say that and maybe aren't that. If you were an Ottawa person, and I say this from having lived in Washington, D.C., lived in the Boston area, lived in Russia, my kids raised in the United States, I always say Ottawa is the greatest place on the planet to raise children. If you're an Ottawa Senators fan and you know and are confident and know this city, once he arrives here with his family, pretty good chance if things go right, he's never going to want to leave. That's the message I would take as a real positive if I'm a Sens fan.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
By the way, I did send him a note. Simmer, I said you were volunteering to be a nanny if need be for him. So if he needs whatever he needs, you're going to help him out. It's part of the goalie union. You have to do it.
Sure.
Listen, I got. How good was Ullmark though, boys? That was just the honesty. Just got a friend from our text from our buddy Mike Minot, Simmer.
Oh, nice, Mikey.
Loves the show. Says thumbs up, boys. Thumbs up.
Yeah. It is nice. And like I said, the refreshing part of, and I'll say this for any of the players, unfortunately, I'll also, when you go into some of the in-season stuff, Wally, and I don't know how you did it, and I know Yorkie, you did it. Well, let's be honest. That's a different athlete when you talk to him in the in-season. Like, what are you honestly getting most times? There isn't much, and I respect that. Once the season starts, you just want to focus on hockey. Getting people in the off season, getting them in Sweden, living on an island, man, oh man, I find that, first of all, to be very cool. And again, another part, if you've been to Sweden, you understand their culture as far as lakes. Now, they have the wood sauna, which I don't know why we don't have more saunas here, but we can work on that, Yorkie. But as far as lifestyle, the Swedish lifestyle is almost identical to what we do here in Canada, as far as the transition between winter and summer and how much they love their lakes.
The barrel sauna is making a huge comeback in
man.
A couple of my buddies just got one. It's just change your life, Summer. You should invest in a barrel sauna.
Oh, I need that, but I need the cool water though. You got to have the lake to jump into, right? Or you got to have the cold tub or something
Cold
else.
tub.
That back and
Those things
forth.
are
That's what it's all about.
You don't just get a big for the guys on a budget, Wally, like yourself. Just get the old metal tube there.
Yeah,
right beside the
like
sauna.
like the football
Jump right-
players, fill it up with ice and you're good to go.
right in there.
And you got to
There you go.
empty it all the time because of all the bacteria that builds up. Listen, I've done research on this. My kid asked for one,
okay.
and then it was like, I'm not spending.
Your kid wants a
$7,000.
cold tub?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Anyway, we're not getting
Yeah.
into this.
And also, I'll say on Ullmark, Wally, just to back, and this is, I think Ottawa does this, and I think this is Canadiana. And I go back to Chris Pronger. We love, and I love this. I think I grew up on it. When a hockey telecast or an international telecast talks about how great we are as Canadians, we love it. And there is something very sincere and nice about Ullmark, is that this took time, and I believe wholeheartedly he's really excited to come to Ottawa. And that's still, we're still in that transition phase here as Canadians and the Ottawa Senators franchise. That just feels good for everybody. Like, it's just nice after all the crap that has happened over the last 15 years here in Ottawa.
Well, I'll tell you something, Simmer. You're a goalie, but being a defenseman, you know when your goaltender has a little swagger.
Yeah,
And that swagger rubs off on the rest of the team because you know this guy has a strong inner belief in himself.
yeah.
Ullmark's got some swagger.
Well, him and Forsberg are both playing for contracts. Like, and
Yep.
this whole thing, I'm a big Forsberg guy. I think in the right spot. And I look back to that. Now, he was playing for a contract last time around. Down the stretch was outstanding, Wally. I think these guys are going to be just absolutely great for each other as far as pushing and getting the absolute max as far as a duo here in Ottawa.
Well, did you hear the one thing that really resonated with me? You always wonder what the perception of other players is around the league. And right away, Ullmark says Forsberg's one of the hardest working guys in the NHL. And that tells you a lot. He's just not saying that because Ullmark's not a guy that just says something. He thinks about it.
Well,
So
how many times do we hear that in contrast to maybe Matt Murray's not? The thing I always took from it was Forsberg's the hardest worker, a.k.a. the other guy doesn't piss a drop.
It was brought up last year, Yorkie, in our summer. Like, people were talking about Forsberg, and I know he was recovering from from his knee injuries. He was at the rink all the time. People were saying that he was working the hardest of anybody.
Ollie, he was there.
Summer.
He was working out on Christmas Day. Remember we were talking about this last year?
Wow.
He was at the rink.
The Swedes celebrate on the 24th. So
I know, but
okay.
but
yeah,
he was. I'm with you, Simmer. I don't think we saw the real Anton Forsberg last year. I know for a fact he was banged up. He was dealing with some stuff. So
okay,
healthy, have a good summer, come back, healthy competition. So I like it too.
All right, we're moving on with a couple of things. One, we'd like to take this time now to tell you we are back tomorrow, guys. Yeah, back tomorrow. We are doing a draft watch along special. Oh, what a promo that is!
Look at that.
Nice.
Okay.
Look at Simmer. It looks like he has no body there. I just see his
No.
head.
Hey,
Now I'm actually feeling part of Harry Potter. I'm feeling like I'm
Like
on
a
the dark
wizard
side
now.
there. Hey,
listen, it's not an unlimited budget here, guys.
well, that's okay. That's okay. That'll be fun. And it's important that it's 7:00 start because that'll give us a maintenance day. We can get massages in the morning, kind of get lubed up there before we head for another show. 5 in a row. I thought the union, we're not supposed to have 3 in a row, Yorkie. 5 in a row. So that's why we got the 7:00 start.
I got to go to the gym. I'm heading over to the gym. I got to do a total body realignment workout today. I got to stretch, get on the bike. Like, sitting in this chair is a lot of work. I'd say.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, finally, because we didn't get to it the other day, the NHL Hall of Fame released its inductees for this year. Great to see. That's Jeremy Roenick going in as a player with Pavel Datsyuk, obviously. Shea Weber. You guys both know David Poile really well.
Yeah.
One of the guys you don't hear anything ever bad about. So I'm just curious of your reaction of him being in the Hall of Fame.
Simmer, I spent a lot of time with David. He traded for me, saved my career by trading me from Anaheim and went over to Nashville. The way they ran things in Nashville was outstanding. I know he never won, but his career,
Yeah.
nobody knows how old he is because he's got such great hair. But outstanding career. Great.
Yeah.
The one takeaway I have from David Simmer, he's just he's a great human being, and it's that organization treated me as good as anywhere I've ever been treated. And like I always say this, we talked about this yesterday. It always starts from the top, and just pure class is when I think of David Poyle.
Yeah, one of the best people managers on the planet. You'd sit in a meeting with him and he'd have a list of things that were important to you. Gave me a start as a player, a terrible third goaltender, and then to work into the National Hockey League, both as a broadcaster. My biggest mistake of my career in 1997, I had 3 jobs lined up. Assistant GM Nashville, assistant GM Washington, GM of Chicago Wolves. Door number 3 I chose, which I wanted to be a Capital, but it was a huge mistake. One of the greatest people ever. I wish he won a Stanley Cup, but don't let that take you away. He's affected people's lives. One of my favorite stories ever. Al Iafrate had some serious issues when we traded from Toronto. It wasn't just about getting Al up and running as a hockey player. He spent hours on David's couch. He had players like Peter Bonder live with him. He affected lives. He changed lives. He helped people. He's one of the greatest men on the planet and very deserving. And I think what I felt is that he could have went into the Hall of Fame sooner, but I bet if I know David, he wanted to retire first and then have the opportunity to go in. So great. And hey, he mentored Barry Trotz from a tryout with the Washington Capitals to a scout, to an assistant coach in Baltimore, to a head coach in Portland, to the coach of the Nashville Predators, to a Stanley Cup champion, and now general manager. Comes full circle along with Andrew Burnett. Job well done, and congratulations, David.
The very first team franchise to implement the father's trip. That was David Poyle and Barry Trotz. They started the fathers. That's where it all started, and that's
we were the first team Yorkie to have a strength coach. 1986, we had a nutritionist who actually helped out the players and the wives. We were the first ones to have a summer program because of David Poyle and Jack Button. Everything was ahead of the game, and then people be you didn't get it done in the playoffs. I understand, and unfortunately, I will say that Wally, it did take a toll on David. There's no doubt that by the time he left Washington, it was a fresh start. But I think somewhere deep down, unfortunately, he expected the worst to happen when it came playoff time. I was thrilled to see them get to a final, but I think that did alter things for him a little bit. But like I said, that doesn't take away from, he'll always say, it's about the people in the game. And I really, really believe that in David's case of Phil. He's just one of the greatest human beings ever.
Yeah, and some great people going in as well. But my God, who did Alexander McGillney piss off?
Yeah. Well, I've also, and this is part of the Hall of Fame, Wally, that I just have a bit of a problem with. You don't have to put other people down. Like if you ask me, and this is when I started scouting in 1992, one of the first lines I watched was Keith Tkachuk, Solani, and Jamnov. Keith Tkachuk should be a layup to be in the Hall of Fame. And I'll also say this for standards, and I have a little soft spot for Peter Bondra. If you score 500 goals in the National Hockey League, to me, you should be in the Hall of Fame. Like I used to be 400. Like if you think of, and I say this because this is in my wheelhouse, just like Yorkie. You saw these guys, you knew the impact that they made. And when I hear some names come up, and I like Shea Weber, but this is how political the thing becomes. The impact that Alexander McGillney in that first year, 1989 World Junior, he, Burry, and Fedorov are a line. And what the impact they had in the National Hockey League. I still remember watching him with Pat LaFontaine in the odd, scoring from the neutral zone.
Simmer,
it's just very sad, but you don't have to put other people down, Yorkie, I guess is my point. Like there's a lot of great, I'd love to see Rob Brindamore, but I think Tkachuk and I think McGillney should be automatics. And I thought it would have been pretty cool for Big Walt Tkachuk yesterday after his son went in the cup.
I know it's because everybody always thinks it's about just the NHL, but when I really look at it and with the Hall of Fame, and this is just my opinion, when you are the best at what you did for a period of time, and I can make that argument for Alexander McGillney. There was a 1 or 2 year period where you could almost classify him as the best player in the National Hockey League. The year he scored 76. You could also say that Keith Tkachuk. There was a time, because I played against Keith, and I'll tell you firsthand experience, Simmer and Wally, best power forward for what he brought to the game. I'm talking about physicality, scoring goals, and just that prototypical power forward from that generation.
Oh, man.
There was a period when he was the best. He was scoring 50. He was fighting. He was standing in front of the net, and he was a force. To me, I agree. Keith Tkachuk is in my Hall of Fame because he was the best at what he did for a period of time.
So Keith Tkachuk is 35th all time in goals scored. 35.
Yeah.
There have been
Yeah.
over 7,000 players to play in the National Hockey League.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
that into itself for me, but Yorkie, I'm on with you. Like, it's called the Hockey Hall of Fame, not the NHL Hall of Fame. Like, he's done enough internationally, right? There was 96.
Oh God, yeah.
So, but you knew, and the same with Jeremy Roenick. You knew when these guys came to town, they at the time were icons, and I still think that needs to be taken into consideration. I don't care about the Stanley Cup. Not one individual wins the Stanley Cup. So all that stuff, you don't need to be a major award winner. That's not something for me either. They were icons of the game at that time. And I like, you knew Jeremy Roenick was coming to town, or Keith Tkachuk. And that's why I think they should be in there. You're 30th in goals. Just explain.
And you can't argue. Like, here's the thing, guys, and Dale Hunter will never get in, and neither will probably Rod Brindamore. But the comparison to Guy Carbonneau, you just kind of say to yourself, "Are you joking?" The impact that these guys had, and I'll say for Jeremy Roenick, watch him in the small building, and that was when they had just signed Eddie Belfour and they traded for Chris Chelios. He'd get out there; it was worth the price of admission. And I saw Keith Tkachuk and him and Bill Guerin. This was an exhibition game, Canada-US leading up to the Olympics. Eric Lindros had flew in from warm-up. Bill Guerin and Keith Tkachuk were on Eric Lindros's ass, and they were after him. But Keith Tkachuk, why I don't also get it, guys, it is royalty. And here's a guy that I believe played in Olympics previous to 98, 96 World Cup of Hockey, was outstanding, had a great career. I can't really get that one. I would have thought that USA Hockey or the St. Louis Blues by now would have been really pushing to get Keith Tkachuk into the Hockey Hall of Fame. That to me would have been a layup before Jeremy Roenick, for that matter.
Well, it's right, because at the time he was the highest scoring U.S.-born player. Yeah. There's so much about him. Like, I just don't understand that one. I can't figure out for the life of me. And by the way,
he'll eventually get in, Wally. He has to.
Why? Like, why is there a punishment then?
Who knows?
I don't know.
So, here's a trivia question: how many players in the National Hockey League have scored 1,000 points?
Ooh. 1,000 points all time. I'll go 52.
I don't know, 61.
98 players have scored 1,000 points. Brian Propp is 1,004. He is number 98. I think if you score 1,000 points in the National Hockey League, you are a Hall of Fame player. 1,000 points. Gentlemen.
Okay. The only issue I have with that, and here's the other one, I like Pierre Turgeon, but I never watched him and thought he was a Hall of Fame player. But when you look at the amount of games he's played, that's the only offset, Wally. If you played 1,500 games and only got 1,000 points, a bit different. But I kind of go back to some of the baseball stuff. I look at 500 goals personally. I don't have a problem with 1,000 points, but like I said, you some guys hang around long enough that they can end up achieving that. But still, 1,000 games, 1,000 points is incredible achievement.
The goal scoring is huge, but the thing I always go back to is, like, during Bondra's career, of any of those years, would you have said he was a top 20 player in the NHL, like overall players throughout his career? You look at Pierre Turgeon, and there was a period of time where you could say he was a top 5 player in the league. It wasn't for long, but there he had those years when he was putting up monster seasons.
I guess perception.
Okay,
I guess perception of him, your perception of Pierre Turgeon when he played Yorkie was you couldn't really win with him. And strangely enough, and I know Dale Hunter didn't hear the whistle, but that year when he ended up getting hurt, they ended up beating Pittsburgh. Then he came back for the Montreal series. I'm just saying, and I'll use this, and I'm not against Chris Osgood, but when I watch Chris Osgood his whole career, I personally never thought of Chris Osgood as a Hall of Fame hockey player. But when I revisit numbers years later, and I'll go back to the Rod Brindamore versus Turgeon, and for Peter Bondra, no, absolutely not. I just say that you look at certain standards and think, man, how hard like Dino Ciccarelli, and I love Dino, but gosh, come on, like 600 goals, and in comparison to what these other guys accomplished. But that's the downside of putting other people down to justify the existence of other guys. Bernie Federko, Clark Gillies, Guy Carbonneau. It really becomes an understanding of how secretive it is and how political it is.
Did you ever see a guy take a worse beating in front of the net than Dino? He's like, I played with Dino, 5'9", $175, and just take an absolute beating in front of that. He earned a lot of those goals, man.
He did. Italian guy. Oh my God. And franchising for David Poile, who'd been in a contract dispute with Mike Gardner for years, all of a sudden turned around and traded Mike Gardner and Larry Murphy to the Minnesota North Stars for Dino Ciccarelli and Bob Rouse. Mike Gartner was not thrilled. I'll just tell one quick story, which is kind of funny. That same year, and Larry Murphy got booed out of every town that he played in other than Detroit. So don't think this just started in Toronto. But it ended up Minnesota flipped him to Pittsburgh. And I love Craig Button's story. They lost to Pittsburgh in the finals that year, and they're having their meetings, and they said, listen, what is the one thing we need to address this summer to take us to another level? We need an offensive defenseman. And everyone's like, didn't we just trade Larry Murphy? But that's full circle for Washington Capitals storytelling time.
Okay. Last question then on the Hall of Fame.
What do you got?
Patrick Marleau. Is he a bona fide Hall of Fame player? When he played, did you think he was a top 20 player like you just alluded to? He played, just so we're clear, 1,779 games. Amazing.
Yeah, that's
1,197 points, 566 goals. He has great numbers. But did you ever think of Patrick Marleau?
Well, ask Jeremy Roenick that question. Remember what JR had to say? But here's what I'll say. Yeah. And I don't like to put down players and say, because Marleau has had a friggin' hell of a career. The longevity, staying that healthy, outstanding player. Yeah. If it was me, no. But there's other guys that are already in that you could make the argument and say, well, he deserves in. So the Hall of Fame thing is just it's so tricky and there's so different things. But from day one, if I was doing it, no, I wouldn't, because I look at my thing. Were you one of the best in the game at a time when you played? And my answer to that would be no.
No. And it felt like every year at the draft, we were going to make a trade for Marleau and Stewart for Chris Simon and Peter Bondra. And it was 3 years in a row we realized it wasn't going to happen. On the case of Patrick Marleau, not a chance, because I never saw him that way. And unfortunately, he never showed up in the big games. And I can't necessarily quantify that, Wally, to say, but yeah. And the other part, here's the key. If you want to, when you're starting your hockey career, you young hockey people out there, here's a few things you need to do. Become friendly with the media, a.k.a. Brendan Shanahan, although Shanny deserves to be in. The other one is you must secure, and I'm sure York, you'll get the call at some point, secure Newport Sports as your representatives if you want the opportunity to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I ain't joking, and I'm not joking. And I don't mean that anything negative. The power that group has within Toronto. And you ask, why is Dave Branch on there? Well, who are most of the media members? Who are the most of the people? And so many people have been put into the Hockey Hall of Fame, hanging out at the, what was the bar everyone used to go to in Toronto, Wally, after the games? All the Hockey Night in Canada people. The Madison House. So many people.
Great spot.
Rob Brindamore. And you thought putting a man on the moon was important? Rob Zamner making the Olympic team was a greater accomplishment, because I don't even believe we put a man on the moon, but I know Rob Zamner made the Olympic team. And that happened at the Madison. And also a lot of people made the Hall of Fame at the Madison.
I should also point out
the Madison.
Patrick Marleau. Patrick Marleau is a two-time Olympic gold champion. World champion.
So that way,
he's a World Cup. Right? He's a member. I think the triple gold.
So Wally, based on that,
no, he never won a Stanley Cup. He never won a Stanley Cup.
Sorry, but internationally, he's got World Junior gold. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So based on the criteria of what it takes to get in the Hall of Fame, I would say, he is a Hall of Fame. But for my personal view, no. But my view doesn't matter. So who cares?
But I think you need to celebrate if the Hall of Fame. I don't know what the definition is, but I think you celebrate the great players of the game. And Alex McGillney was a great player of the game. If you were around that era, you knew who Almo was. You knew who Kachuk, and so that's why it's time to celebrate those people.
Yeah. Do you think McGillney, the fact he smoked, do people hold that against him?
Well, then Guy Lafleur wouldn't be in, right?
No, that's a good point. Here's the other part. I'll say internationally, guys, and you make a great point, Wally. I do put a lot into that. Like one of the things when Alfie was being talked about, if you had played in 5 Olympics back in the day, now the window from 98 to 2018 is a bit different, but still, if you're a 5-time Olympian, you deserve. Alex Mogilny would have played on so many teams had he not defected and not wanted to play for Russia after the fact. But no, his impact to it, and I do put a lot into that. That's to me with Theo Fleury. And Theo, first of all, I think for what he overcame should be in the Hall of Fame. But World Junior, Olympics, Stanley Cup, probably won a World Championships. I do look at that stuff as being very important on the international level on top of your NHL resume.
Being 5'6", and playing in an era when you had to be even 6 feet tall to be drafted is
Oh.
incredible. And then going on to do what he did, and just so tough to play against. You know, when you knew when you were playing against Fleury that you were going to be in for it in a scrum, they bite your finger off. He'll do whatever it takes to win. Like those are guys you win with.
Yeah, and I also don't understand, guys. I look at it from what he overcame. I would think that would make you a layup. Like, and I met Theo in 1985. We were at the under-18 team and became fairly good friends. And Sheldon Kennedy, like great guys. I just put myself, Wally, back to as a 17-year-old kid, trying to comprehend what Theo didn't get drafted our draft year, got drafted the following year. Everything that he overcame with Graham James, to me, that would be that should be more reason to induct him and to show people how incredible it is what he did and also what he stood for. And I know, forget the politics part of it, but what he stood for, and how he's overcome this and being public about it.
Well, but I don't know that you want to necessarily have him doing a speech at the Hall of Fame.
No. Maybe you do a recorded speech. You
don't want today.
You don't want to cause another truckers convoy in Toronto. I mean, but he no.
Okay, we got breaking news.
Oh, whoa.
What do you got?
Ken Holland is out of the Edmonton Oilers organization.
Huh?
Wow.
Resigned, fired. What
officially
happened?
told the Oilers, according to Darren Dreger, Ken Holland officially told the Oilers he will not return to the team next season in any capacity.
Okay. I'll say this for Kenny Holland. I think he kind of
senior advisor to the Ottawa Senators.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, he ended up giving Steve Staios. There was some link to Columbus. Here's my feeling and the thought. He got pushed up well, it was funny going back. He got Brian Murray's job, but he got pushed out in essence by Steve Yzerman. When Jeff Jackson went to Edmonton, who was the agent and of course now the president, Jax is the guy. Like Jax is in charge of everything. And I didn't get the sense that he and Kenny Holland were on the same page, to be quite honest with you. So I can't say this is necessarily a surprise. I'll just be interested to kind of see what direction they end up going.
Scotty Upshaw, who, by the way, has connections, was telling me that Ken Holland could be on his way to Chicago.
Really?
Position to be determined.
Like it. Up dog inside.
You never know.
I played with Scotty in Nashville for a couple of years. What a beauty.
Yeah, there's some characters there with the World Junior in Halifax and him and Lupul and they have some characters. For Kenny Holland, if you're the Chicago Blackhawks and you're trying to bring credibility back to your brand and trying to bring kind of a winning along with assisting a young general manager, that'd be a great hire for Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah. I was in Detroit summer when Kenny Holland was making his way up. Just a great guy, great human being.
Oh, absolutely.
So much experience. That would be a great fit. Chicago, bring in his knowledge, what he knows, his connections. Because when you're making deals, it's all about relationships, who you trust.
For sure.
That would be a great hire.
Yeah.
Okay, don't go anywhere. The Stars, and I apologize. Someone in the chat just brought this up to me. I think Jordan Zimmerman. I apologize.
Okay.
The Stars are buying out Ryan Suter's contract.
Okay.
Yeah,
I guess no shock. Got a nice little deal for himself after being bought out. He's probably going to get paid for the rest of his life, I assume, by now. Both with and I think of David Poyle, like double kicks in the nuts, the Shea Weber offer sheet, which I will make one point on. But when Suter all of a sudden was given the offer sheet by Minnesota, along with Parisi, one of the things, Yorkie, that and Wally altered someone's career was David Poyle, when that offer sheet for Weber for Philadelphia, which is basically a foot out the door. The one modification that he had made was you cannot put a no trade clause in an offer sheet. And that was taken out by the Nashville Predators, which basically paved the way for Shea Weber becoming a Montreal Canadian.
That's right.
Interesting. Interesting to know. There's someone, I don't know if this is factual, so I'm only going off Twitter. So if it's wrong, I apologize. That Ryan Suter may be the first player in NHL history to be bought out twice. I don't know if that's true, but he will make $833 next year by Minnesota and 1.4 by Dallas to not play for them.
Oh man, hey,
that is the gig.
Oh,
I don't know what Tony Robbins thing he's listening to.
No, that's impressive. Hey, you just got to figure out where to live, so you can avoid the taxes. That's the only thing. Maybe I bet the fella's probably setting up shop in the Cayman Islands, Yorkie. Absolutely.
Oh boy.
All right, boys. See you back tomorrow. Hey, one last time, 7 p.m. tomorrow night. We have guests lined up, including at the time right now, Ian Mendes is going to join us from the draft. Hopefully it all works out because he's in the sphere. I'd like to be able to see him. Hopefully we can make it video-wise. Not sure, but that would be amazing.
Yeah.
A few other guys lined up as well. Yorkie will be on fumes and probably into an old-fashioned by then. So,
well, even with Mendes, let's hope he's able to make the slot. He's not going on a big bender while he's out there. Right?
One night in New York, I saw him pound back some rum and cokes. I was shocked he was still walking.
Some, not one,
multiple. Like
okay.
Yeah, and he just seemed like he had done this all the time. Like, I'm like, man, I'm nearly buckled here.
I think he was pulling the old trick with the bartender where it was just coke.
Trying to change my image here.
Yeah.
Maybe we're gonna ask him. All right, gentlemen, have a great day. We'll see everybody on Friday night. And
see everybody.
Linus Ullmark. See you guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Coming In Hot. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.